Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. We're going to make something today here in the shop that we've made before here on the channel. We're going to make another branding iron. This one's for my cousin, and it's a special branding iron. So stick around, we'll give you the story, and we'll get this thing made. So my cousin, he wanted a branding iron that was the same as his dad's branding iron when they lived out in California. They moved out here, I believe it was 1983. And he used to run cattle a little bit out in California. He rented pasture and stuff like that, and he had his own brand. And my cousin wanted to register that brand here in Nebraska. And believe it or not, they give you 10 choices. You submit 10 choices. He got his first choice, which was this one that he wanted. And it's a special branding iron to him. He's got a lot of sentimental value to it because it was his father's. So we definitely want to make that for him. So let's get started with this thing. I told him we had enough parts just laying around the homestead here. I got this old fire poker we got at an auction we're going to use for the handle. And they recommend when you do branding irons, you use 1/4 to 3/16 material. And we've got some scrap 1/4 inch material here that we're going to use for that. And I'll show you what the brand looks like. So that lightning bolt B is what we're going to make out of this flat iron. And we'll mount it to the end of this little fire poker thing we have here. We need to straighten out some of this flat bar. And what better thing to use than my cousin's dad's anvil. Got this anvil from him after he moved off the homestead. I was able to purchase this from my aunt. So pretty appropriate that we're using it. Now we don't need to heat this up because we're just going to straighten it. We're not doing any tight corners with it or anything like that. That's pretty straight. Got a little end here. Perfect. So now we need to figure out the size that we need for the brand. Nebraska doesn't have any specific requirements for the size, but they recommend 3 inches for a calf and 5 inches for a larger animal. So these are the brands right here that were from this ranch here that we bought. Previous owner, that was their brand, their family. So it was Diamond 7. So the 7 is the 4 inches tall. The Diamond's a little taller. But I think we're going to go with the 4 inch. That way it's not too terribly big and it's easier to handle. Not quite the 5 inches, but I think it'll be fine. Now they also recommend that the brand face be 3/8 to 1/2 inch wide. This is 3/8. That's only 1/4 that material we found. So we'll find some bigger stuff. So I found some 3/8 rod, some steel rod we're going to use for our brand face. We'll make our lightning bolt and our letter B. We'll lay it out on a flat table and we'll brace every portion of it back to the main stem. Should be fine. So I want to clean these up on the wire wheel real quick. Okay, we got all our rods cleaned up. We did a rough sketch of the scale of the brand. So we're 4 inches tall, the letter's 2 inches wide, our lightning bolt's 2 inches wide. So we've got kind of a rough measurement. This needs to be 2.5 inches long, 2 of those. This will be 2 inches. This piece will be 4 inches. And then these pieces are roughly 4 3/4 all the way around. So we'll get all of those pieces cut, and then we'll start forming them up. Got all of our pieces up. Now we need to form these. I've got this piece of solid shaft I'll put in the vise. We'll heat these pieces up with the torch and we'll bend those around, making a perfect kind of half circle. Now this post vise right here I'm using, that was also his dad's vise, my uncle's vise. He gave this to me quite a few years ago when I was still visiting out here in Nebraska. I took it home and refurbished it, and I've been using it ever since. I get a lot of use out of it, and I think of my uncle every time I use these two pieces of equipment, so that's a real plus. Okay, we've got the correct radius on our hoops. We're going to have to cut a little bit off because they're a little bit long. So if you see this one's not quite even, that's okay, because we got to trim a little bit of this off anyway to get it to fit that. So we're going to start getting this cut. These will probably have to be trimmed up. The edges are going to have to be rounded. We'll do a little fitting before we start welding. Okay, I think I'm going to start on the lightning bolt first. This piece is as long as we need it. So what we'll do is we'll run these pieces in. We'll fill this with weld here and here. And then if we have to trim a little bit off the length over here, that'll be a lot easier to do. So let's get the welder going and we'll get this going tacked together. Now this piece is a little too wide, but that's because these need to meet in the middle. So these will be cut at an angle so they meet, and that'll bring these two in. Okay, we got our B ready to weld. Looks like we need to cut just a little bit off of our lightning bolt, maybe 1/4 inch off either end. And we'll have her down. Okay, I think we got our right proportions now. We just need to sand this thing up and tidy it up a little bit, and then we'll be able to start welding the handle on. Okay, I think we got those cleaned up enough. And then on the back side of the B, we put a notch here and a notch here, because if you got too much going on, it creates a big burnt blob. So just creates a little separation right there and right there. If you've just got a corner, it's okay. But if you've got 3 pieces coming together, it gets a little hot. Got our brand tacked on the handle, and it's nice and flat. So we're going to take some more of these rods here, and then we're going to go back to the handle here and keep everything nice and flat. Put some braces in there. Okay, we got all of our braces welded on. Just got to clean it up a little bit. You can see what the other side looks like. Nice and flat. So let me get this cleaned up and then we'll heat it up. We'll get a piece of wood and we'll see what that brand looks like. Alrighty, I think that's going to work. Alright folks, that's a wrap on another fun project out here in the shop. I was glad I could make this for my cousin and use some of his dad's tools to actually make it come full circle. That's pretty cool. You know, I love history, and I think it's so cool that he got his dad's brand registered from California to here in Nebraska. That's super cool. So hope you guys enjoyed this project. We've got plenty more to do on the farm, and I hope you come back and see us here real soon. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Love you guys. We'll see you real soon.